Well, welcome everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Josh Prue from the Alumni Relations Office here at UConn. I'm thrilled to be here today to join you as we welcome our colleagues from the Connecticut Small Business Development Center, which is housed in our very own UConn School of Business, to talk all things small business today. So I'm joined also by my colleagues, Caitlin Krause, Samantha Morris-Avery, and Kristen Luger. And you probably know us at this point over the last couple of weeks, we've been your go-to in this virtual space tied to career and professional development opportunities. So we're thrilled to have you joining us. If you participated with us in our previous Elevate events this month, thank you and welcome to another. And if this is your first time joining us, welcome. We do this throughout the year, but every February we pause, especially for the last 5 years now. We pause every February to really focus entirely on professional and career development opportunities for our alums and constituents throughout the country and the globe. Today, we are going to be talking all things small business, whether or not you have a business or you're thinking about it. This is a great opportunity to converse with one of our regional experts here on the subject. But I want to point out that this is being recorded. So please take a look at the previous sessions from the Elevate Career Series that we've launched. You can find those at youtube.com/UConn alumni, and this will also be uploaded to that shortly thereafter. But before we go too far, I want to make note as well that closed captioning is available. And should you wish to utilize this service, all you need to do is visit your toolbar on the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of the screen, select the CC option, and go ahead and activate subtitles. My colleagues are dropping that instruction as well into the chat. So if you need that, please take a look there. The chat is open, so we encourage you to engage and network with your fellow Huskies. Let them know where you are, what you're doing, where you're logging in from, perhaps. But always remember to be kind, courteous, and supportive in your dialogue, and please keep conversations topical. Next, we are going to be able to field some questions from you today, so we ask you to please utilize the Q&A function on your Zoom toolbar. Again, down at the bottom, you'll see that Q&A function on your toolbar. Just go ahead and open that up and submit all questions this way. That way, we don't lose one or miss one by accident in the chat. If there's some dialogue, we want to make sure we can get to as many as we can throughout. Last, let's see here. We talked about recording. I talked about that piece. Let's see. All right, what am I missing here? All right, let's get into today. Let me introduce our speaker today. Dr. Michelle OUIMETTE is a business advisor at the Connecticut Small Business Development Center. She's also an adjunct faculty within the School of Business, and she earned her doctorate degree in management with a research concentration in social entrepreneurship from Pace University in New York City. And she also holds an MBA from our own institution, UConn. Prior to her role as a business advisor, she had a 17-year career working in the nonprofit sector with nationally recognized organizations where she spearheaded numerous entrepreneurial activities. Michelle, thank you again. We appreciate the partnership that SBDC has given us over the last few years, and we'll get off screen and we'll throw this over to you at this point.
All right, thank you so much, Josh, for that warm welcome. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here today. As Josh said, my name is Michelle OUIMETTE, and I am a business advisor with the Connecticut Small Business Development Center. I'm also a fellow UConn alumni, having graduated the MBA program in 2004. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar. Our focus is going to be on entrepreneurship and how to determine whether your idea is a hobby or a business. First, I want to provide a little bit of background on the Small Business Development Center. We exist as a partnership between the U.S. Small Business Administration, Connecticut's Department of Economic and Community Development, and UConn School of Business. Our mission is to help small businesses in the state start, grow, and thrive. Our professional staff of business advisors offers no-cost, confidential, and expert business advising to small business owners and entrepreneurs at every stage of the business life cycle to overcome challenges and reach their goals. While I know we have many people participating across the country, you should note that there are over 62 small business development centers, at least one in every state, as well as in the island territories. We also have a network of 900 locations for you to access. So if you need assistance with starting or growing your business, be sure to reach out to your local small business development center. Next slide, please. So as a business advisor at the SBDC, I get to work with entrepreneurs who are considering launching a new venture. I also provide support to those business owners with whom I've had the pleasure of working with for some time. I'm blessed to have spoken with hundreds of clients over the years, and each of whom I have asked, why do you want to go into business? I won't promise the answer to this question today, but rather highlight a few considerations which may help you find your own answer. We will cover these topics during today's discussion. Is your venture a lifestyle choice or a venture business? Why does this distinction matter? How can you assess your own personal readiness to the specific business objectives? How can you validate your business idea? And I will also share tools and resources to help you with the next steps. Next slide, please. One of the things that we have seen over the last couple of years is this surge in entrepreneurship. In 2021, the Census Bureau reported an estimated 5.4 million new business applications were filed, and that's compared to 3.5 million in 2019. And what is driving this entrepreneurship surge? Part of it is the pandemic. People have been working in jobs and they now need a new employment situation. They might need more flexibility, the option to work from home. And so they're thinking about starting a business to meet their family needs. The other is this phenomenon of the Great Resignation, where many baby boomers are retiring early and looking to start what they call encore careers. They're finally starting that business of their dreams. So I just want to get a sense of the audience here today, and I want to do a quick poll. So in this poll, if you can answer, how many people here are actively planning to start a business, currently making money off of a hobby or side gig, are in business or self-employed right now, or just curious?
I'm going to leave this open for just a few more seconds, folks.
Okay, so it looks like the majority of participants are just curious, which is great, because if you're curious, I'm going to provide a lot of helpful information for you to help you with the next steps. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So let's begin with a foundation question. Which type of business is best for my lifestyle? You should know that businesses can be categorized in multiple ways: by industry type, size, entity type, such as a for-profit or a nonprofit, your business structure as a corporation, an LLC, sole proprietorship, and revenue potential, just to name a few. For today's purpose, we're going to consider the following. Will yours be a hobby business or a venture business? And we'll identify the difference between the two. So let's start with a hobby business, which is typically considered a side hustle done outside of regular work hours. You perform this because it's enjoyable, it generates additional income, and carries costs, which is really considered worth it based upon the return of investment of your time and energy. Whether it's sheer enjoyment, stress reduction, preparation for the next chapter in your life, or maybe even a tax write-off. In a venture business, we think about the sales of goods and services, which are considered business revenue, when the work is offered in a business capacity from a professional who makes a living providing those goods and services. You have marketing collateral, which speaks to the work offered. The work is done on a steady basis. The owner keeps accurate records, which could be audited, and the owner may have hired contractors or employees, engaged vendors, and may have engaged in supply chain distribution. Regardless of whether your work is considered a hobby or a business, in the eyes of the IRS, how you manage the business is key. So you should note that the IRS has a definition which differentiates a hobby from a venture business. And you can see a link to the site where that lists the IRS definition. But some of the things to look at are whether the activity is carried out in a business-like manner and the taxpayer maintains records, the time and effort the taxpayer puts into the business to make it profitable, whether the income supports their livelihood, whether any losses in the business are due to circumstances beyond the taxpayer's control, whether there are any methods to change the operation in order to improve profitability, whether the taxpayer was successful in making a profit in similar activities in the past, whether the taxpayer and their advisors have knowledge to carry out the successful business, and how much profit the business makes. So this is how the IRS determines the difference between a hobby business and a venture business. So we're going to move on to a little bit more complex view of small business, which is not clearly defined, and think about whether this is a personal business or a venture enterprise. So a personal business is one which is really not scalable. The more work that you have, the greater the expenses, and therefore it really limits your sales potential. Your customer segment is fairly local. The business has been bootstrapped and growth is supported by family, friends, and the owner who has invested money or capital in the business. You should note that this definition does not detract from the value that the business brings to the owner, the employees, and their communities. On the other hand, venture businesses are much less common as these companies have exceptional growth potential. They are truly venture enterprises we read about whose growth is supported through institutional ventures, venture capital, etc. Startup businesses try to secure financing to fuel their operations and are often caught in this catch-22. They need seed money to grow. However, investors want them to be making money and ensuring profitability before they are willing to fund. Basically, the business really needs to prove its value to the investor. Startup businesses are also riskier than established companies, which is easy to understand as there's no history upon which to base an investment decision. The SBA definition of a truly small business is based on a size standards table. Generally, a small business is considered one that has fewer than 1,500 employees and a maximum of $38 million in average annual receipts. While rarely obtained, venture capital plays an important role in the next stage of innovation life cycle, the period in a company's life when it begins to commercialize its innovation. We estimate that more than 80% of the money invested by venture capitalists goes into building the infrastructure required to grow the business, in expense investments like manufacturing, marketing, and sales, and the balance sheet providing fixed assets and working capital. Venture capital is not long-term money. The idea is to invest in the company and its infrastructure until it can be sold. In essence, the venture capitalist buys a stake in the entrepreneur's idea, helps the idea grow, then exits with a profit. Bankers finance new businesses to the extent that there are hard assets against which to secure the debt. Today's information-based economy has resulted in few hard assets for most startup companies. Venture capital funds fill the void between sources of funds for innovation and traditional lower cost sources of capital. Venture capitalists do try to avoid early stage companies where the technologies and markets are uncertain, as well as later stage companies where growth is slower. Ask yourself, is my idea a hobby with an ROI or return on investment worth pursuing? A business I can maintain which passes the IRS test? Is it a personal business which can meet my financial needs? Or is it one of the rare venture enterprises which I can scale with customers across the country or the globe? Next slide, please. So answering these questions matter because the distinction matters between whether this is a hobby business, a personal business, or a venture enterprise. You decide the time you are willing to invest, as well as how much you prioritize other aspects and variables in your life. You may choose to keep the business small or can work toward growth on a level you can manage. Increased focus may lead to higher productivity and positioning yourself as an expert in your field or in your community. Next slide. So I have worked with many clients who experience growth in their first year beyond what they've expected, resulting in the need to realign their priorities. They have invested in new abilities and skills, creating a new capacity to meet increased demand. You may find you work harder than you anticipated, while others may have a smoother path than expected. Regardless, your job is to maximize profits. This requires knowing your numbers and creating financial projections so you can understand what you need to sell in order to break even, become profitable, and grow. You should create business goals for yourself, which are SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Regardless of the type of business you plan to start, it is important to ask yourself several questions, including why you are doing this. Do you have the money to start your business? Are you willing and motivated to work long hours? Do you have the support structure, such as family and friends, who will encourage you throughout this process? Starting and owning your business is challenging. Figures from the Bureau of Labor Statistics state that over 80% of businesses will survive the first year, and then that number reduces each year. By year 5, half will likely fail. But starting your business is also a very exciting endeavor. It allows you great freedom and opportunity to explore and develop your own business idea. Successfully starting your business can provide a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction in knowing you did it yourself. However, if the business fails, you must assume all the liabilities and the emotional strain that goes with it. There are many misconceptions or myths about owning your own business, such as, I will be my own boss, I can get rich overnight, I can expect immediate income from my business, I can start my business with little to no money, I will incorporate my business and use other people's money. It is essential to understand why you want to own your own business, be confident that the product or service you provide is needed, and that the financial goal you set for yourself is reasonable. Last, if you need financing, ask yourself, have I saved the required 10 to 20% down? And do I have the credit worthiness required of potential lenders? If the answer is no to either of these questions, additional savings and or credit repair may be part of your journey. Typically, credit scores below 640 may require credit repair or restoration. If you don't have the 10 to 20% down, take a look at your cash reserves and other potential sources of income. Be creative, know your risk tolerance, because over-leveraging yourself is risky. There's certainly the need for people skills in owning your own business. You are selling yourself and your business when you create a brand. Customer service is an integral part of your messaging. Networking with those in the industry as well as others who are potential referral sources will become part of your regular business routine. You will refine these skills over time. There's no need to be perfect from the get-go. Know yourself, know what you do well and where you should rely on others to assist. If you know your time is best utilized in a specific direction or targeting specific business goals, consider enlisting the help of a partner or outsource the help that you need. We've all heard the old adage, know thyself. You can complete an entrepreneur self-assessment tool called BOSI DNA to learn more about your entrepreneurial strengths and weaknesses. Before I move on, I will take a moment to see if there are any questions in the Q&A. Okay, don't see any questions at the moment, so we'll transition here into idea feasibility. So take a moment to think about the business idea that you have in mind. We want to discuss whether or not it's feasible. What business will you be in? What product or service will you provide to your customers? Once you have determined the direction which best fits your skill set, work will then focus on honing your business model. And some of the questions that you need to answer appear on this slide, such as who will buy your product or purchase the service you are providing and why? What is your value proposition? We will discuss this more on the next slide. You also want to think about what is your differentiator from the competition? How much will your customers pay for your product or service? Pricing can be difficult to determine as there are multiple variables impacting this decision. You have to know your cost of goods sold as well as the value the product creates for your customer. Some customers may want high value and be willing to pay a premium while others shop price first. You have to know your customer and the market. This list is not exhaustive, but rather highlights some important questions. As you pose each of these questions to yourself, consider additional research to support your assumptions. So you want to take the time to validate your business idea because you don't want to buy something that nobody wants. Test your assumptions, both using qualitative and quantitative methods, such as focus groups, surveys, user testing, consigning, if you have some sort of craft type business idea. The number one reason why businesses fail is really that there's a lack of market need for the product or service. And one of the examples is Coors Rocky Mountain spring water. It made sense for the Coors company from a manufacturing standpoint because they were already established as an alcoholic beverage, but consumer sales flopped. They were not successful with this idea of Rocky Mountain spring water. One thing that you can do is develop your value proposition before you get started. The value proposition helps you determine the customer problem that you are solving or the need that you are meeting. Essentially, how do you make your customer's life better? On this screen, I have a tool presented called the Value Proposition Canvas. This is offered under a Creative Commons license by Strategizer. So if you just do a quick internet search, you can come up with this tool. The value proposition essentially helps you translate into customer-centric language how the features of your product or service will benefit your customer. And this is a challenge because you want to make sure your value proposition is about 10 words and definitely no more than 15. Your value proposition is also going to help you differentiate yourself from your competition. Think about the SBDC's value proposition. We help small businesses start, grow, and thrive. Made it very simple language, very clear to our customers what we do and how we can benefit them. Once you have identified your value proposition, you can then begin work on your business plan or business model. What I have projected here is the Lean Business Plan. This is offered by LivePlan, another tool that you can find online. In this tool, they talk about what is the customer problem that you're solving and what is your solution. They also ask you, what is your value proposition? And so you can use this Lean Business Plan and the one that I will present on the next slide called the Business Model Canvas to really start putting your business model on a page, what we call a plan on a page. So this is the Business Model Canvas. This is typically used by companies that are already in business, but I have used it for startups as well, especially for startups that have a really clear idea of what they're going to be doing, and we really need to do an additional level of analysis. This is another one of those tools by Strategizer you can find online. And you can see right in the middle, it asks you to look at the value proposition. The left-hand side of the Business Model Canvas then speaks to the activities going on in your business to deliver that value proposition. Who will you partner with? What will be your activities? What resources do you need? And then on the right-hand side of the Business Model Canvas, it speaks to the activities going on outside of the business. Who are your customer segments? What are your customer relationships and your channels? And at the bottom, the cost structure of your business and revenue streams. Now, you don't necessarily have to write a detailed business plan to start a business, but I do recommend at least completing either the Lean Business Plan or the Business Model Canvas before you move forward with your business idea. A traditional business plan certainly can be written at the time that you start a business. You will absolutely need a traditional business plan if you ever go to seek lending from a bank or someone else. This is offered by LivePlan, but you can see the different sections of a traditional business plan. You know, there's the executive summary, there's an overview of the company, which also asks what's your target market and your competition. There's the execution section, which speaks to your marketing plan, your operations, and your people strategy. And then you also have to provide an overview of the company, the ownership of the business, the team, as well as the financial plan. You can find many business plan templates online at SBA Business Plan. You can use the SBDC's business plan, or you can use a LivePlan option. Again, you will absolutely need to have a formal business plan and 3 years of financial projections created for your business if you need to seek any type of lending for your business. All of the business planning tools that we just walked through require you to know who your target market is. As Saskia Gregory says, defining your target market or your niche is the single most important business decision you can make as an entrepreneur. But how do you go about finding out who your target market is? Well, there are some tools. Next slide, please. Okay. So what is your target market? The target market is really the process of identifying and selecting groups of customers who are likely to benefit from your products and services, and those who are most likely to buy your products and services. When I'm working with entrepreneurs, I ask them, who is their target market? And sometimes people say to me, well, everybody is my target market. And while everybody might be interested in your product or service, or might have a need for it, you really want to think, especially at the time you're starting up, who are the people most likely to buy your product and service? Who are the low-hanging fruit? As an entrepreneur, you have limited resources in terms of time and money. And so you want to make sure you are focusing your efforts on communicating with those people most likely to benefit from your products and services. Identifying your target market will help you hone in your marketing mix, basically the way you market to customers, as well as your messaging, what you say to them. It helps you connect your value proposition to your customers, and it helps you to segment the market. So how do you define target market? Again, this is essentially, who are your customers? Another way of defining the target market is figuring out how big is the target market. At the time you start up, you might be thinking of your target market in terms of your local town. And then how big is your attainable market? Right? What about the market in the local area and beyond? And then what is the total market size? This basically asks you, what is the total market size for people wanting, I'm going to use pizza in the greater Hartford area. There are tools that you can use to define your target market. You can use secondary research, looking at research studies, journals, internet research, and regional or community publications. And then you can also do what we call primary research, which is very data-driven. You can conduct focus groups, do surveys, make observations. Some additional tools that you can access, if you do a quick Google link for sba.gov resources, there's a whole list of resources to help you with defining your target market. You can go to your local library. There are some databases known as IBIS World and Esri that also help you define your target market. When we think about defining our target market, we also think about marketing segmentation. How do we segment the market? We look at things like geographics. Where are my customers located? What country, city, what's the population density, what language, what's the climate, area, and what is the total population? We also think in terms of demographics, age, gender, income, education, social status, family status, stage of life, and occupation. Diving a little bit more deeper, we also want to think about our target market's psychographics. What is their lifestyle? What are they interested in? What activities do they pursue? What are their opinions? What's their personality, their values, and their attitudes? And then we look at their behaviors. What are the benefits that they're seeking? Remember, you're trying to connect your value proposition that will ultimately benefit your customers. How do they purchase things? What is their usage? What is their intent? Is there a specific occasion? What is their stage at the buyer stage? What is their user status? And what is their life cycle stage? So you can really take a deep dive into understanding who your customer is by looking at these different quadrants of segmentation. The next slide is a customer persona. And this is a really excellent tool if you don't really know how to begin defining your target market or your customer. There's lots of tools online where you can create a customer persona, but basically this has you go through the exercise of creating a fictional character and writing down information about them. You can see on this slide that you write down information about their age, gender, education. You can write down information about what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're doing. You basically create a fictional character or story of your customer. And going through this exercise will really help you better understand your customer and therefore better understand your target market. So this is a great tool that you can use. Okay, we are going to do another poll. Which do you prefer, pancakes or waffles? Okay, it looks like we have more people preferring waffles. So what does this have to do with our presentation today? Well, let me explain. This has to do with competition. And competition can really scare people, especially when you're first starting out. You might be looking around and thinking there's so many other people that have my same idea, or there's so many other people that are doing this, how am I going to succeed? I like this quote by Nancy Percy on competition. If you really think about it, competition, it's a good thing. It really forces us to do our best. To be successful, you need to understand your competition. It's key to your business strategy. And I'm going to give you an example from the town that I live in. I live in a town that it's not very big. I think there's about 30,000 people. And there are 8 pizza restaurants in this town. And every time I see, there's actually a new pizza place that opened up last fall. And I was looking at it like, how is this possible? How can this town support another pizza restaurant? I don't understand it. For those people who are operating those existing pizza restaurants, as well as the person opening the new pizza restaurant, understanding their competition is really key to their business strategy and being successful. We all will have competition as business owners. You want to understand how your competition is positioning themselves. What is their value proposition? Who is their target market, and what is their pricing strategy? The target market of the Domino's that's in town is probably different than the target market of the new upscale pizza restaurant that just opened called Tomato Joe's. We also want to think about what are our competitors' strengths and what are their weaknesses, because you can capitalize on their weaknesses where they might not be best serving the target market. And last, you want to understand this idea of direct competition versus indirect competition. All those pizza restaurants, they are in direct competition with each other because they are all providing pizza. It might be, Greek style, New York style, might be a different style of pizza, but they are all providing pizza. But they do have indirect competitors in town. And the indirect competitors are those businesses in town that are basically solving the same customer problem, but in a different way. For example, there's the local grinder shops that are offering grinders. There's the fast food restaurants. The customer problem that they are solving is inexpensive fast food, right? But they're just solving it in a different way than the pizza restaurant. So make sure you keep in mind who your direct competition is and also who is your indirect competition. Who are those companies out there that are solving the same customer problem, but in a different way? And finally, we need to talk about the financials. I strongly encourage you to take the time to understand basic business financials. The numbers tell a story about your business, and there are many online resources that can teach you these concepts. You want to understand what is your cost of goods sold. How much does it cost you to produce that good? Or if you have a service-based business, what is the cost of services provided? These are the direct costs that your company will incur every time you make your product. This is in addition to the overhead costs of running the business, such as having, a website, Wi-Fi, a business phone, business insurance, and so forth. And then you want to make sure you understand the 3 big financial statements. The first one, your income statement, also known as the P&L, the profit and loss statement. This basically tells you the financial performance of your business over a period of time. It will show you the revenues of your business, the expenses, and tells you whether or not you are making a net profit. The balance sheet provides the overall financial health of the business. What are your assets versus what are your liabilities? And this is calculated at one point in time. So this is sort of the business equivalent of knowing how much money you have in your bank account and any investment accounts you have, if you have equity in your home, versus how much debt you have at any one point of time. The balance sheet shows this for the business, how much assets the business has versus how many liabilities. And then finally, the cash flow statement measures the cash inflows and outflows. Okay, so every month we can see, did we make a net profit? Did we make a profit this month? Okay, then we have more cash this month. How many expenses did we incur this month? How much were we paying? All right, this is how much cash went out. So the cash flow statement shows you how much money you were taking in and how much money you were paying out on a monthly basis. I know that sometimes these financials can be really overwhelming. It does take time to learn, but it is so worth it for your business. You cannot be successful without understanding the financial picture of your business. There are many online resources that can teach you these concepts, such as LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Khan Academy, LivePlan, and many more. Take the time to research and understand financial statements. And I'll give you a quick example. I was actually speaking to a client this morning who is looking to open a new business, a fish business, actually a fish restaurant. And her financial statements were developed by somebody else, but I'm working with her to help her get her business established and access a business loan to start the business. And as soon as I looked at the financial statements, I could see that there were errors in this and that she was actually going to incur losses in her business and not be profitable based upon how the projections were developed. Now, if I hadn't taken the time to go through and understand the financial picture of the business and sort of read the numbers, she may have tried to move forward opening this business and it would have incurred huge losses in the first couple of months. She does not, at this point, feel comfortable with financial statements. So I'm going to take the time to not only help her refine her financial projections, but also teach her how to understand the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement so that she can be successful. As I said before, every business owner is a salesperson. You are selling yourself, your team, your brand, your product, and your service. You need to have a strategy to both run and fund the business, whether you are using funds from family and friends, a traditional lender such as a bank or a credit union, or even going through a non-traditional lender like a community lender. In Connecticut, we have CEDF, CIC, HEDCO, and many others. You may also seek funding by an angel or venture capitalist. Be sure to develop a business plan or a pitch deck. Both provide a valuable roadmap for your business. Writing a business plan, preparing a pitch deck, all takes work and lots of it, but it's your business and your plan. I do suggest having a draft prepared as opportunities do not always present themselves when you are ready. So as part of your funding strategy, you want to have an executive summary, target your sources, who are the bank, investors, or even family and friends, determine how to access them, have your narrative of your business, create a campaign for your business. Be sure to know the value of networking. One of my colleagues likes to say, your network is your net worth. You want to take time to learn the skills of networking. You're going to have to really focus on raising capital as part of your job as a business owner and build a solid relationship with a local bank. We at the Connecticut Small Business Development Center provide support for getting started and offer a long-term partnership to help your business grow. Some of the services that we offer are outlined in this slide. In addition to startup support, we can explore capital access, financial access, cash flow management, market research, marketing support, expert consulting, and more. If we at the CTS BDC can help, you can register for our confidential no-cost services on our website. I will have my contact information up at the screen during the Q&A. Don't hesitate to reach out. Again, this is a reminder that we are funded by the Small Business Administration federally, by the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development, and through the University of Connecticut. You can get connected to us at our website at ctsbdc.uconn.edu, and you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CTSBDC. So thank you all for participating in today's presentation. I will take any questions that you have.
I'm going to jump in here as well with you, Michelle. We had a couple questions that were emailed in prior to today. I think either they wanted to make sure they had them in front of us, or that they, in case they missed it, they still got questions answered if they can't make it today and look at the recording later. But while I jump into those in just a second, for folks that are participating today, now is a great time to type those into the Q&A section based on the information you received today. And we'll try to get to as many of those as we can in the next 15 minutes or so. The first one that came in here via email is talking about funding and partners that you might bring in. Obviously, when you do that, you're oftentimes selling a percentage of your profits in your business to those partners, not necessarily venture capitalists that you're talking about earlier, but say you bring in a silent partner or somebody who loans you, say, 10% capital to put into your business. How much of your overall growth and prospects should you be considering selling to a partner so that you can still maintain profitability moving forward? What's a relative number that you would recommend?
So this is all very business specific, and you have to take a close look at the financial projections to see how the business is expected to perform. I will say, if you're thinking of bringing in a partner who will have an ownership stake in the business, you want to make sure that you are creating an operating agreement. If you're looking at starting out with like a limited liability company, you're going to create a multi-member LLC operating agreement. And this is an agreement which basically outlines the ownership share of the business, how the profits will be divided, who is responsible for what, and how any liabilities in the business will be shared. Creating a multi-member LLC operating agreement at the time you're starting the business or when you're thinking about bringing on a business partner is absolutely essential. If you don't have this operating agreement and things change, it will basically be left up to the court to decide how the future of the business and how things get assigned.
Gotcha. Thank you. Next question that came in was, you talked a little bit about understanding your target audience. Is there a way to tailor your target audience a little bit more specifically?
Way to tailor, I mean, beyond really understanding, the geographic location of your target audience, what their demographics are, what their psychographics and their behavioral intentions. That's really the best way to understand your target market, and then go through that customer persona exercise. And once you've honed in on who the customer persona is, then you can do the market research to see how many people that are of this, customer persona live, in this geographic location.
Is there any type Is there any type of scenario, this is more of a follow-up that I was thinking while you were saying this, is there any type of scenario where someone would potentially, their target audience might shift or change and you have to adapt your business plan as appropriately? Is that something that happens relatively often?
Well, this happens all the time in businesses, right? The market changes and businesses need to adapt and pivot. We've now become accustomed to being able to pick up what we want at stores, right? Stores were adapting to the customer needs, where a customer didn't necessarily want to walk into a store to pick up the items they purchased. They wanted to be able to just have it brought to their car, right? The customer needs changed.
Well, that's actually a good lead into the next question that I had here. That was in terms of the internet world of business. And is there a different approach when starting, say, an online business versus brick and mortar?
So really an online business speaks to where you're going to sell your product or service. You still need to have the fundamentals of a target market and a value proposition. You have to be meeting a customer need or solving a customer problem. An online business, you take different strategies to drive traffic to your website. People will think of, social media, advertising, things like that to drive traffic to the website. But it's also important to think about what will be your offline activity. For example, if you make jewelry and you sell jewelry on your own website and you also sell it on Etsy, well, people are not necessarily just going to find you, right? You're going to have to drive traffic to those sites. And one strategy that is really effective is participating in local craft events, farmers markets, things like that, where you're talking about your business, you're showcasing your products, and then you are encouraging people to go to your website and or your Etsy page. So your offline business activity, networking, consigning your products, things like that will drive business to your e-commerce site.
You mentioned this in there, and it's a decent follow-up as well. Are there any specific strategies or things that you would recommend in terms of social media? And would you recommend it as an absolute must at this point for any small business owner?
So social media is, first of all, social media is here. It is a way to reach your target audience. But again, you want to know who your customer is, who is your target market, so that way you can figure out which social platforms they hang out on. Is your target market hanging out on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Are they on TikTok? Where do they hang out? If it's a business-to-business service, how would you connect with them on LinkedIn or Clubhouse or some other site like that? So you can use social media to communicate to your target audience. But again, it's important to remember that social media platforms, they have a business model too. And their business model, they make money through advertising revenue, which means you pay to boost your post so it can be seen by more people. So you have to understand the algorithms.
Sure, no, it makes perfect sense. Now, you mentioned this earlier. One of the questions that I had was, this person was not a resident of Connecticut. So you mentioned this earlier in terms of the number of SBDCs that exist throughout the country. Can anyone take advantage of these services, and is there a fee associated at all?
Our services are provided no cost, and they are completely confidential. The Small Business Development Centers in Connecticut and across the country, we support people who are looking to start small businesses. The requirement is that you cannot be looking to start a nonprofit organization. We don't support nonprofit organizations. There are other resources in the community, like SCORE, that you can go to if you need help with starting a nonprofit organization.
Awesome. And I only had one other question that was here, and it's more along the lines of something you mentioned earlier, talking about using Etsy and things of that sort. Is there a benefit to using online platforms like Etsy or even Amazon Marketplace and things of that style versus establishing your own website and having to go through something like Square to go through the processing and checkout and things? Do you see one as more beneficial than the other? And what would you recommend for somebody that was starting something up that was a goods-based provider?
So one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, what is your bandwidth? Okay, if you have your website and you're also selling on a site like Etsy or Amazon, you're managing multiple places where you're selling your products. I would say that all small businesses should at least have their own website. It doesn't need to be a fully integrated e-commerce website, at least a page that has some of your products featured and a way for people to get in touch with you to conduct business. And the reason why I say this is because Etsy, Amazon, those are known as marketplace facilitators. And you don't want them using their algorithms to control whether or not people can find you. If somebody sees your necklace or the craft that you've made at a local craft fair or a consignment shop, and then they try to find you on Etsy or Amazon and they can't find you, that's because the algorithm is preventing people from finding you. I was actually working with a client yesterday and I was trying to find her on Etsy and I was typing in her business name and it was not showing up. She had to send me a direct link to be able to find her on Etsy. So you want to at least have your own web page, even if it's just a landing page. So that way your business can be found if somebody is searching for you. And then you can make the decision whether you want to make it e-commerce enabled and sell both on your website and through marketplace facilitators.
Awesome. Well, that's all the ones I have. And I think we've gotten through all the questions that have come through today as well. So Michelle, we want to thank you for all your time and your expertise. And again, the partnership with the Connecticut Small Business Development Center. Your team has worked with us at least twice now over the last 2 years, and we look forward to continued partnership as we continue to provide some opportunities for our alums throughout the country and the globe. And again, thank you for your time, your expertise, and your preparation here.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Thanks a lot. All right, and everybody that's joined us today, thank you so much. Again, this will be housed on our YouTube page at youtube.com/UConn alumni. We also have 3 more events in the Elevate series this month. So make sure you check out foundation.uconn.edu and check our events calendar, where you can find all the great information that's going to be coming out for the rest of this month. Thank you all so much. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.